we just saw they had like a theatrical release at like the local theater of Empire Strikes Back. So we got to see that.
Couldn't miss that. Second time I've only seen it on the big screen.
Yeah, it's my third time seeing it on the big screen. The first time when I think it was like 3. And then the second time was 96 for the re-release.
Same here
and then
for
now
that
this
one.
was the third time. Seeing like a movie like that in the theater when you're 3, it was like a formative experience for me. Like it kind of, I think, affected just, my interests, my aesthetics, everything I'm into was like a result of being, that age and seeing Empire Strikes Back. Because I didn't even like remember like Star Wars or anything about I think I saw Empire first, and then I saw the re-release of Star Wars when that came out, like around this, like they re-released it around the time of Empire. I only remember seeing Empire Strikes Back, and so to me that was Star Wars.
Star Wars.
And like imagine seeing that movie, like that's like the first thing you see, and it's like it's got like everything. It's so chock full. It's there's not a dull moment.
No.
There's a million super cool moments, a million super cool characters.
Well, the first time I saw it was on the Monday Night Movie. We're getting a transmission from the Galactic Empire. Mm-hmm. It was the world television premiere of the Empire.
That was really exciting, yeah, when it was on TV like that, because it was like a couple years later, and it was kind of like I was able to enjoy it, understand it and appreciate it more than at age 3.
Those are around that, like a little bit older. I don't think it was 3 when I saw it, but like the Karate Kid, the movies we've been covering have been like the Goonies, Karate Kid, Empire. Those were all recorded off of television. They were there. I saw them on TV, and it was like I knew we were going to be watching it.
Yeah.
So it was like leading up. And I still remember too, like Rambo 3 was on. And I remember prepping, being like, I wanted to stay up later than usual to record Rambo 3.
Well, yeah, it's a little more grown up than usual. And yeah, Empire, like seeing it on the big screen, like one question going in, we were wondering like, oh, is it going to be the special edition or the original version? And I didn't think there was much of a chance of the original version. Like that's that's like not easy to come by. Like I own a copy of it, and it was like a bonus disc that came with like a DVD release. That's how I have all the original Star Wars, is in the form of these like bonus discs that came with.
I don't think I might not own the original.
You might not, it's like impossible to find.
Sure
and I thought that was going to be the first thing to come out once Lucas sold off Star Wars, but they still haven't put it out. Like Empire Strikes Back is just my favorite movie, period.
I can't argue. Like it's sometimes it's mine too. I go through like we were talking about that after, like I might pick Indiana Jones, might pick Empire Strikes Back.
That's a good pick.
Pick Die Hard. Like I just never know what the Jaws, like whatever.
Having Harrison Ford in your movie definitely gives it a little extra notch. And of the 3 original Star Wars movies, the Special Edition Empire Strikes Back is the least egregious. Like if they had, Star Wars or Return of the Jedi, I would not go see it in the theater because I can't stand the Special Edition versions of those movies. Like I find them to be unwatchable. But Empire, it's like I'd rather watch the original version, but I like that the
Wampa.
Yeah, the Wampa special effect. It's really nicely done, really nicely inserted in there.
You know what it keep coming back to? They should be using practical effects because they just age so well, and like...
Yeah, that looked really good. And then, the rest of it, not as much of a fan of the other changes that they made to it. The window, opening up Bespin, it's a good idea in theory. It's just, it's not, you see kind of like the green screen kind of, you see the... It just feels a little off, but again, still super enjoyable. And
you had mentioned the windows beforehand. I was like, I was trying to zero in. I couldn't really remember, and I forgotten that was what they adjusted.
Yeah, because Bespin was much more claustrophobic. Like Bespin, when they arrived there, and again that aesthetic, that sort of like sunset, eternal sunset aesthetic,
the golden hour.
So beautiful. And like that was another thing that just kind of stuck with me as a kid watching the movie. It would put me in this like mood kind of thing. Like it's very moody and very and kind of melancholy too. And even like when I was a kid playing with the Bespin playset. It had like a little cardboard backing that had that sky with that color
sky.
too. Yeah, and it was just it's melancholy.
You mentioned claustrophobia,
but beautiful.
I was trying to pinpoint what those windows, the additions, effed up, and it was the claustrophobia. Those like white hallways, like the shape of the rooms and stuff. It's very like you might get lost. It's like it all looks the same. It's very like
it's like a labyrinth.
Labyrinth.
Bespin is a trap. It is a trap, and it's beautiful. It's the city and the clouds, all that, but you still get this sense that they're trapped and they're cornered, and that again, it was like seeing, for some reason, like I've watched Empire a million times, but for some reason seeing it in the theater kind of brought back that original theatrical experience when I was little, and I just was like, just the novel, like it just felt new, and and just like when they walk into the room and it's like, whoa, what's Darth Vader doing here?
After we saw Darkman and then we saw this, I think what I'm learning is I think we need to see more of our favorite movies from like that we had maybe missed out on or haven't seen in a long time again, because it definitely is like seeing it new.
Yeah.
Like there's stuff in the background.
There's a lot going, and the original Star Wars is like that too. Like the first time I saw it, on like the widescreen VHS editions, I was kind of astounded by like, oh wow, there's all this stuff going on, and like that kind of made me a believer in the widescreen thing, was just seeing how much of Star Wars I had been missing all those years. But yeah, Empire too. There's just very full frames. Irvin Kershner.
We love Irv. Shout out to Irv.
Yeah.
George Lucas's professor.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. I was thinking about that. Like, it's nice that he had these relationships with his professors and stuff. Like, I didn't really stay in touch with any of my professors from college. I mean, like sometimes I'll go to like alumni events and stuff and see them there. But like that would be kind of cool, being like, oh yeah, I hired my professor to come in. And
he's like, I ended up directing Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah, right. And I thought like, oh, what am I missing out by not, being an academic, by not, having like being a college professor, and it's like, oh yeah, get some jobs out of it.
He might ask you to go on like an archaeological expedition or something. Harrison Ford, I can't fucking get enough of Harrison Ford, and like basically the whole cast, but like Harrison Ford, his finger acting, he's going full body. Because, like, I'm just rewatching The Fugitive, and when he is moving around in those tunnels and stuff, and in Indiana Jones, he looks like he's ready to fall over at any minute. The way he moves around, he's like flopping. He's like a mime or like some silent film actor or something. Like, I just love his physicality in the movies.
Yeah, I was like, as a kid, I was shocked how fast Harrison Ford aged. Because it's like he's Indiana Jones, like he's Raiders of the Lost Ark, he's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, he's Blade Runner, and then he's Regarding Henry. Like it feels like it happened so fast, and I was like, I couldn't believe somebody could age that fast. And then The Fugitive, my wife, he's got his like sweater on, and he's like he's very like domesticated, and like.
I didn't kill my boy.
Yeah. And I was
he's like, what did you say? I didn't kill my boy.
How does that happen to a person? And then like later learning that like, oh, he was 39 when he played Indiana Jones. He was like, I thought he was like in his 20s or something, but he was like 30. So it's like, it's not like he accidentally drank some uranium or something and just became completely desiccated, between 1984's Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom and then 1986's Regarding Henry.
Like he was hanging around on the set of Oppenheimer, he was hanging around Joe Pesci as Albert Einstein.
Yeah.
He's like, why don't you dance that uranium over to me?
Yeah. Just all the twists are so good, and Billy D. Williams and then C-3PO getting blown up. Like it's an iconic movie that everybody knows all the beats and knows inside and out, but watching it and having it feel a little bit fresh it just kind of reminds you like, why it's so great and why it kind of changed cinema. Like it changed cinema in a way like even more than Star Wars did, because it had such like a refined aesthetic, and that aesthetic became like the aesthetic of blockbuster movies, like that Empire one. And the love story, the whole tension between Princess Leia and Han Solo, like that is the heart of the movie. Like I love all the stuff with Yoda and learning the Force and the fights and the special effects, but that is the heart of the movie. And if you take that out, nobody cares about any of the other stuff. And that really is what Star Wars, like, ever since Return of the Jedi, that's kind of what Star Wars became. Like the prequels were like George Lucas, like, I wonder what Star Wars would be like if we took out the Princess Leia and Han Solo and just made it like completely about these like sort of seminarians and academics and like studying philosophy and like if we made it just that, would it still work? And I'd say it doesn't. It doesn't work.
Because you're right. There's actual like sexual tension between them in that. It's like
and a movie. I feel like a movie kind of needs that. Or if you don't have that in your movie, good luck. Like you've got an uphill battle on your hands.
Yeah, like that's been like scalpeled out of the later.
Yeah, and even like even the the new trilogy don't have that either. Like it's like that element's been taken out of Star Wars, and then especially in these Disney Plus Star Wars series, there's like not a whiff of it at all. Like these are all loners, these are all virgins, these are all like, and again, like Luke is a seminarian in Empire. He's on this like ascetic path, this very lonely kind of interior path,
The chemistry between Harrison Ford and Carrie Fisher, like, it's like, are they sleeping together off set? It's like
I mean they completely like we've learned. I think like I don't know that anybody had to like wonder about that, but like it was like I think it was like confirmed after her death, or like maybe she confirmed it like later, like closer to her death. But yeah, they had all that. Harrison Ford was married at the time, but that wasn't stopping him. And you just see it. Like they're just like they're
he's
ready
like,
to go.
George Lucas is like, this is gold. This is gold.
Yeah, he was like, no, this is like, Kirsch, what are you doing? You're fucking up my movie. Why did you put sex and love into my Star Wars, my beautiful Star Wars?
I'm only making like the best movie that's been made.
Yeah,
George, he's like, like amazing, and even everything's so iconic. I love all their costumes. It's like they've since like a random scene. It's like, oh, that's an iconic look. Like,
well, and like when I was a kid, there were a bunch of Star Wars toys in the house, like already that like I didn't know how they got there, but then it was like when Empire came out, you had to get new Star Wars toys because your stormtrooper wasn't cutting it anymore. You needed a snow trooper. And Han Solo with the vest was yesterday's news. You had to get like Han Solo with the long sleeve jacket and all. I had multiple. Like first I had to get the just sort of like the rebel soldier in Hoth gear.
Oh yeah, you had to.
And you could use him as Luke in Hoth gear too, but he was kind of he was like non-specific. It wasn't Luke. It was just rebel soldier in Hoth gear, but he was my Luke. But then they came out with like a specific Luke, and where he wasn't like in as much of like a stiff pose. He kind of had this torque to his body and stuff. And so like, okay, now I have to get that. And I had like the tauntauns, and it was like, do you get the tauntaun with the opening gut or the non-opening gut? I went with the non-opening gut.
You're right. I would have went. I think I had one with the non-open gut as well.
It was a nice touch that I always liked in that movie, and I was kind of reminded watching it again, is when Han Solo rescues Luke Skywalker, and then he has to like Han Solo has to handle the lightsaber, and he's not like, he's kind of awkward with it. Like he's able to do what he needs to do, but he's very like, you can like, and that's a nice little detail of like, like Han is not, that's not his path. He's not cut out for that. This thing is like a foreign object to him, where Luke picks it up and it's like he's had it his whole life. Like he has this connection to it. And it's like, Luke is the guy who's going to have to go on that journey. It's not like, oh yeah, Han Solo, give Han Solo a lightsaber too. And that was kind of, that was like, I feel like by the time they made the sequel trilogy, they kind of thrown that out where it's like, yeah, pretty much anybody can pick up a lightsaber and fight with it. And that like, and even there were like fan theories by that time of like, oh, maybe Han Solo has the Force. Like maybe because there's this speech he gives where it's like, I call it luck. And it's like, oh, maybe Han Solo's been in touch with the Force too. He just didn't grow up in a Force household. And so he calls it luck. That's how he knows it. But he actually is Force attuned. That was another theory. And it's like, that's interesting. And so, but it's like, no, it's like, you know, is every character going to be, you know,
a Jedi?
A Jedi. And it's like, you know, there's kind of like a similar thing, you know, with like superhero stuff where it's like, okay, is you know, Superman and Batman, are they going to become Green Lanterns too? Like can't the Green Lantern be the Green Lantern? Does everybody have to become a Green Lantern? Or like you know, does Captain America have to lift up Thor's hammer and wield it? Like, can't that be Thor's, you know?
Or in the Fast and the Furious series, none of the villains die. Like, if you're a villain in one movie, you just become assimilated into the heroes group for the next movies. So there's never any, like...
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, what the Fast and the Furious, it's like any kind of ongoing narrative, and you see that in superheroes too, especially the Marvel heroes, where somebody starts out as a villain and then becomes a hero. But what I trace it back to is like the Knights of King Arthur. Like they kind of build up Arthur's knights by like, okay, now somebody's facing this knight, now somebody's facing that knight, now, and they fight that knight, they defeat him, and then he joins up with as long as he doesn't get killed in the battle, he'll join up
your party.
join your party, and so then by the end of it, you have this like huge, you know, round table that all these guys are sitting around, and then you watch the thing get destroyed.
Going back to the action figures, like, those guys, they knew what they were doing with the action figures, because when I would get a figure, I would be like, where did I see him in the movie? Well, I would see the AT driver, and I'm like, when the fuck was he on screen? Mm-hmm. And then you realize, oh, just the top of his helmet is visible. Mm-hmm. But they have a whole figure prepped for him. Like,
the toys were really important, and like one of them, like Bosk, we've talked about
Bosk. Love
Bosk, and all of those Dengar, Zuckuss,
Forlom,
all of the I love Forlom.
Me too.
And like it took a while for them. It took a while for them to get a Forlom action figure. I think Forlom came out with like the Empire, with the Return of the Jedi action figures, but that was so this like nice leather, this like leather duster that he wore and stuff. And yet he was like the Tusken Raiders from the first movie, but he was like a little beefed up, a little more exotic. Very cool. And Bosk and stuff. And like I had the toys before I saw the movie. So and the kids in whatever toy you didn't have, some like kid in the neighborhood, maybe like an older kid, would have it and stuff. So like I was able to look at the Bosk package and play with the Bosk toy and contemplate this character of Bosk for a much longer period than I spent in that theater watching the movie. And when Bosk is, you know, on screen for like maybe 30 seconds at most, like, and so Bosk looms so much larger in the whole Star Wars story for me. Even though, like, yeah, how much screen time does he take? He's just a beautiful design, and a design that you get to kind of, you know, play with your action figures.
Bosk is a top five character.
I mean, that's the Boba Fett story too. Boba Fett is like a very small but effective presence in this movie, but everybody had to get the toy. And I remember the neighbor across the street when his Boba Fett mail order showed up.
God.
And it was like, whoa, what? It was this little like white coffin, this like little box that shows up in the mail. And it's like, and I was there when his mom's like taking it and like, hey, look what came. And it was like, a Star Wars, like Star Wars guys can come in the mail. That's awesome.
Dude, getting toys in the mail is probably one of the best things. What is best in life? Getting a limited edition fucking figure in the mail. Like, I got a mask mailed away. I have to research what that was. But I got from Lay's. I unfortunately didn't get the Boba Fett one that you're talking about. Mm-hmm. But, like, I had the Lay's mail away Obi-Wan Ghost.
Nice.
And I had Han Solo and Stormtrooper disguise mail away from Fruit Loops.
Yeah. I had, like, when I got when I got Boba Fett, it was, just in the store version. It wasn't like the advanced mail away order. But my mom did take all the proofs of purchases from my Star Wars guys, and then send away for the I forget it was called like Rebel equipment or something, and it was all these like backpacks, and it was like all these backpacks, and it had the oxygen masks that they wear when they step out of the Millennium Falcon when they're in that tunnel. It has those, and those were made out of like clear plastic. It was kind of this like clear rubbery plastic, but it had all that. It had the backpack that you could put on Luke that your little Yoda could sit in, so God. Luke could walk around with you. Yeah, all that great stuff, and it informed my play too as a kid. Like not just like Empire Strikes Back, not just playing with the toys, but also just kind of playing Star Wars, where like we're running around and
I love to play Star Wars.
Yeah, jumping and trying to do flips. Another like special edition thing, like this is the part that I hate in the Empire Strikes Back special edition, and I kind of forgot about it. And that was the point in the movie where I thought, okay, now's a good time to use the bathroom. It was because like one of my favorite parts, and a part that I kind of like every time I watch Empire, I kind of forget is there, but where they where Darth Vader leaves the asteroid field because he's receiving a transmission from the Emperor. Yeah, and he's like, "What is thy bidding, my master?" And it's like, "Whoa, this is like it like blows my mind every time." But in the special edition, they take out the super cool, like, first glimpse of the Emperor.
He's got those eyes.
Yeah,
those weird eyes.
They take that out and they replace it with this really bad, like, just dead camera stuck right in Ian McClelland.
Ian McDermott?
Ian McDermott. Or
Dylan McDermott.
Yeah, Dermot Mulrooney. In like, they just stick this very like stiff camera right in the face of the guy who plays the Emperor and in Return of the Jedi, and in Darth City and plays Darth Sidious and the Senator Palpatine in the prequels and stuff. It's that actor, and it just sucks. It fucking sucks. It's just fucking bullshit. And I got kind of angry. I'm like, fuck it, and I was like, okay, I'm using the bathroom.
You're punching holes in the wall of the theater. I'm like, right. What's doing? You're like,
it's the worst. But yeah, that like original version is so great. Like the Emperor is kind of like very weird, and you don't know what you're looking at. And the hologram, and he's kind of going in and out of focus, and like just very cool looking. And he's got this really cool voice. It's not the kind of Skeletor voice that the Emperor has, in Return of the Jedi and stuff. It's this like, there is a disturbance in the Force. It's got
such a good vocal, Tom.
Really good vocal. Looks super cool, and has these like weird like eyes. These like deep round sockets. He looks almost like a slee stack, but then he has these like little like glowy eyes inside, and they blink. And
I always thought he had like swimming goggles on painted over or something.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of like urban legends and stuff around like what are we looking at as the Emperor there. And so the one I had always heard, and the Emperor has like British teeth in the original version, just really like these really long kind of like Andy Capp's pub fries kind of teeth. It's like Mick Jagger's smile or something.
It's like Austin Powers. He's like,
yeah, but the rumor was that's because it's uncredited or something, or it's like some weird name.
Ooh, that's
in
sick.
the credits. But it's what I'd always heard was that's Alec Guinness. And it's Alec Guinness, because what a great idea that like Obi-Wan and the Emperor are like two sides
like
of
a
the same
subliminal
coin.
suggestion.
Yes, but maybe even a canonical thing. Lucas was kind of playing with this mythology, as we know, on the fly, on the go. It wasn't like an all laid out plan. So like, yeah, maybe Obi-Wan is like a clone of the Emperor, or vice versa, or whatever. Like, who knows? But yeah, it was Alec Guinness in this makeup. And then another part of it was that Alec Guinness had some kind of like accident or something, maybe like a flash bulb, or some camera light exploded in his face or something. And so he was wearing these sunglasses. And so they built the prosthetic mask around these sunglasses for Alec Guinness. And then those eyes are kind of like are from another source, that they're like those eyes that blink are superimposed over it. Now, what I'd later heard is that no, that's not true, and that the actress, the emperor is actually it's a woman playing the emperor. Because again, like Lucas wanted, or Kirshner or whoever made this final decision, wanted the emperor to kind of be like where you can't quite put your finger on, like, okay, who is this? Like he wanted it to be a very kind of mysterious
Emperor backstory is,
but
this is fucking amazing.
Played by an old woman in this kind of heavy makeup. And then, and those, they're not trying to cover up Alec Guinness's sunglasses. That was a design choice to have these like dark sockets, and then to stick, somebody else's eyes over it, just to give it this like uncanny valley kind of thing.
Alec Guinness is so Hollywood at this point. He refuses to take these like Jack Nicholson
right.
He's wearing makeup.
He's wearing aviator shades, and they're like, "How are we going to work around this?"
They just put the makeup on over his sunglasses.
Yeah,
he's gone full Hollywood.
But who knows? Like Lucas has done a bunch of like sort of kayfabe with. All through the history of Star Wars. So
I never opened this door before to the. This is amazing. You're blowing my mind.
But yeah, that always stood out to me. Like that was always my favorite scene. When I was older watching this movie, because it's so mysterious. It kind of stands out separate from like the rest of Star Wars, because it doesn't like that's not what the Emperor looks like the next time you see him. And again, it is always a scene I forget, because like I'm watching it and it's like, oh, there's the Millennium Falcon go, and they're about to kiss, and then C-3PO comes in, and it's not the cave. Why is the cave shaking? Oh, it's alive and stuff. And then but I always forget that in the excitement of.
Another part of that's weird, and I don't understand it. That like ball that he's in, it opens up. It's like, what the heck?
Yeah, the meditation chamber. Like that stuff's really cool. And maybe I have a better grasp on that because when I was a kid, that was a toy. Like one of my friends had that. It was the Darth Vader's Star Destroyer toy from Empire Strikes Back, and it has the meditation chamber in it with like the two halves that come together. And yeah, you get that little glimpse of the back of Darth Vader's head, and it's like, whoa, Darth Vader's got to be real fucked up looking,
Jeez. And then like it's funny with Ian McDermott.
Yeah, Dermot Mulroney.
Dermot Mulroney, when Dylan McDermott, like he was in full makeup back in Return of the Jedi, but he has since aged into what he looked like. So he's never, even in like now, he looks like he always has to me.
Yeah, I think about that. Like that, I think I was thinking about that with Orson Welles. How he has like the old man makeup in Citizen Kane, and that's kind of like what he looked like when he,
Or Vicky. I saw Vicki Lawrence live as Mama,
and she doesn't need. I mean, I think that's an irony everybody has to face, and we talked about that with Back to the Future. How the McFlys, they have their like aged version, and then and like I think it was Leah was saying like. It was so weird, like having that age makeup and being like looking middle-aged, and then you peel it off and it's like, oh, okay, I'm 20 again or whatever. And that she now kind of has those feelings like, looking in the mirror, like, can I take this off and be 20 again?
The guy that plays Biff, like, pulls his skin off of his head. He's like,
it's this musculated skull.
Yeah, like the meditation chamber, like such a cool design too. I like it's white inside, and like
the toy was cool too because it had this like little view screen that you could like call up the admirals or whatever on, and it was this like little plastic red thing that had like little slashes through it, so it kind of had like.
Well, one of the Darth Vader's, his minions, those got like what are those his generals or whatever that are always fucking up that he's chosen.
Right, and he has to kill each one.
Yeah, one of them shows up. He's like, "You're not one of my generals. It's David Carradine." He's like, "Where did you come from?"
It is nice, like the palace intrigue, where it's like, yeah, those guys keep fucking up, and yeah, the movie just never lets up. Oh, and the other thing, like we were watching like the Flash Gordon serial, and the first Flash Gordon serial, and you watch that, and you're like, holy shit, this is so like one-to-one Star Wars. Like they land on the planet, and then these like armored guys get out, and
the droids are walking,
and there's like dewbacks. There's these like kind of like lizards that are on like the surface, but the second Flash Gordon serial, like the second full series, takes place on the planet Frigidia, which is this like ice planet and stuff. So like Luke, like he was kind of like, okay, like we're doing, part 2 of this Flash Gordon riff. Well, what did Flash Gordon do in part 2? And in the Flash Gordon comics, they would ride there'd be these like these kind of like ostrich kind of creatures they ride on. And so that was where the Tauntaun started, was like that, and then it kind of evolved into what it became. But
dude, I was thinking about, remember the Lee Brackett script we read on a previous episode?
So great and so underappreciated. Like Lucas kind of swept that one under the rug. Like Lucas and Lawrence Kasdan would always shit on that script and say like, oh, it was shit, it was old fashioned, it was shit. But like you read it, and so much of what Empire is there. It just needed a couple like little tweaks here and there, but they were they act like it was just a complete dead end, and they had to like scrap it completely. But it's so much. It was really a revelation reading that.
I would have loved to have seen like those practical Wampas attacking like the base. Wouldn't that have been sick?
Yeah, because there was and it's interesting, especially watching it on the big screen. Keeping an eye out for the Wampa stuff, because there was a whole Wampa subplot that got cut out just because the effects weren't gelling. It wasn't up to the task. Like it just didn't look quite right, so they scrapped it. So then there's like the part, and like you can see some of this stuff on Disney Plus. They have a lot of the deleted scenes from Empire, but there's like the part where they're like running through the Rebel base on Hoth, and C-3PO's lagging behind, and then he looks at a door that has this like warning label on it. And the movie cuts, but like in the full scene, he looks at that thing and then pulls the sign off, because it's the room that says like warning, Wampa storage or whatever. Oh. And then some.
I need to see that. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, some snow troopers like are chasing them, and then they like open that door and then get attacked by Wampas.
That's awesome.
When Han Solo gets on his Tauntaun, there's like dead Tauntauns around, and they were like attacked by Wampas who had gotten into the base, and of course like the Wampa is like a cool presence in like the final cut of the movie, and especially in the extended, the special edition. But in that Lee Brackett script, the Wampas are terrifying because they're like supernatural. Like they can they can like swim through ice. They can kind of like phase through ice or what. Like they are unstoppable terrors. And that it's kind of like, this rebel base is just doomed from this. It's like double doomed, because even if the Empire never found them, these Wampas they were just barely keeping them at bay, and they were going to take this whole thing over.
The concept of the Wampa like going through the ice, that would be like, that's a sick idea just for like a standalone movie.
That could be like a sequel to The Thing or something. That's just a really great concept of all these people in this ice base with these weird creatures that can pass through ice.
Great image you did of Chewie doing the test of strength with the Wampa.
Well, yeah, because that was probably the best scene in the Lee Brackett script sick. Is Chewbacca fighting a Wampa, and it was kind of like, you'd almost think like, oh, that's the whole reason they came up with the Wampa, was to have Chewbacca fight one and to be sort of robbed of
I would have bought 2 tickets. Like, that's like, they're like, you want to see a sequel to Star Wars? I'm like, only if I can see Chewbacca kick a Wampa's ass.
So like, Empire Strikes Back, like I said, it's my favorite movie. My whole comics body of work, like, most of the comics I've done are almost like a love letter to Empire Strikes Back. So like, I can't say enough about it. And we could potentially make the Total Recall channel just like the Empire Strikes Back channel, and like every episode we're just talking about some other aspect. So it feels kind of weird just to like put a capper on a conversation about Empire Strikes Back, but it's just like, we saw it in the theater and came away with it with a couple new little bits,
I could tell. I loved like anything Empire Strikes Back related. Amazing. I'm going to show up next time in Luke's gray jumpsuit he wears. Well, that finale, I love that.
Yeah, jumpsuit. That gray jumpsuit. That was my Luke. Like the Luke toy that I played with the most when I was a kid, and I still have it. And like, I hadn't like looked at it in a while, and then I kind of like got it out of storage and stuff, and like, I just have it burned into my mind, like exactly where the paint is coming off on his hair and stuff. But like, that's like my Luke Skywalker is like in that, everybody's got, and a couple years later when Return of the Jedi came out, I was like super into that kind of like Catholic priest
His collars
where
up,
he's got the collar, got the like cloth robe and stuff. Like I was into that, and I know I have memorized exactly where like the paint on his face rubs off on his nose, because like that was the reverse. Like the Empire Strikes Back one was like, it was like peach colored plastic with like blonde with yellow paint for his hair, and then the Return of the Jedi was tan plastic with like peach paint for his face. So,
dude, like I had the Empire Strikes Back like a storybook and the Return of the Jedi book, and I would obsess over the just pictures in it. That floor in Bespin, in like the room with the orange and the black.
yes, so
there's
beautiful.
a picture I would just like stare at that. I'm like, this is like the greatest fucking thing ever.
Yeah, such great design, and that the design there, it's supposed to look like a spider's web that like Luke is like trapped, trapped in this. It really is a trap. And when the ship flies away, like another part that you kind of always forget, when the X-wing flies away from Dagobah, and then Yoda says, "There is another," and it's like you always forget that part.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh yeah, like. And that blew everybody's minds. Like, there's another Jedi somewhere in the universe. And, Lucas said that was kind of like insurance, because they weren't sure if Harrison Ford was coming back. They weren't sure about a lot of things with this next movie. And so they thought, a possibility might be like Luke going on some quest to find this other Jedi or whatever. But the thing that occurred to me, just from like a screenwriting point of view, like what purpose that there is another serves, is that, Luke is going out into the wilderness. Like, he's going out into the darkness. His, all-knowing advisors have told him, this is going to lead to catastrophe. Do not do it. So, like, he's going off. So there's already, like, that jeopardy. But then Yoda saying there is another makes you think, like, oh, wow. Like, not only might Luke die or fail in his mission, but maybe Luke doesn't even matter at all. Like, maybe this idea of Luke being some kind of like the risk is even greater, because now the risk isn't just Luke might die, he might fail, he might make things even worse than they were to begin with. Luke might make himself completely inconsequential to the Star Wars mythology. He might be written out of Star Wars. There might be, like going into that scene not knowing the outcome. That there might be a Star Wars Part 3 that does not have a Luke Skywalker. Like, not only might it not have a Han Solo, who we just saw get basically murdered, basically frozen, maybe not even Luke.
The thrill of seeing having Empire ending without Return of the Jedi, without any other Star Wars stuff, like, that had like that.
Yeah, because
I like irreplaceable.
Yeah, you can't because I saw it that way. And as a kid, I remember like my impressions of it, and my parents would sometimes talk about like, the things I said when we saw it and stuff. And when Darth Vader says, "I am your father," like, I told my mom, like, he's lying. Like, I didn't for a second think that Darth Vader was Luke's father.
He's a bad guy.
He's a bad guy. Yeah, he's just lying. Like, this is just bullshit. Yeah, he's trying to, get into Luke's head. And George Lucas had said, like, he'd done a lot of like psychological research, like child psychology research for the movie and stuff. And he said that like what they realized that scene won't be a problem, because little kids would just reject that idea, and then like older kids who can sort of understand, this, will sort of, accept that, but it won't be as disturbing to them, because they have like a sort of like more sophisticated apparatus. And that's exactly how it played out for me. Like, I was like, no, he's lying. And then the other thing was, I thought, they do say, oh yeah, Han Solo's breathing, he's okay. I thought Han Solo was done. Like, I thought he was basically dead. I thought we'd never see him again. So then going to see Return of the Jedi and being 3 years older, like, again, more like double the time on Earth, more sophisticated, and then seeing it and being like, oh my God, like, Han Solo's okay, like he's doing okay, And wait a second, Darth Vader really is Luke's father? What? Getting that confirmation.
I would always wonder what it would feel like in Carbonite when he like thaws out. I'm like, is he wet in there, or like
the thawing out process was very cool. And again, watching these movies, it is, you do kind of have to like remember like what it must have been like the first time seeing those things, because it's easy to forget, but like, yeah, when Han Solo is first unfrozen, it is so cool. And like the idea of like him being like super disoriented and like, he's lost his sight.
Carbonation sickness.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
He like does a big burp. He's like, ugh.
And he was like, Han Solo was the first, he was kind of like a pioneer. He was the first person to get that, that carbon freeze technique applied to like a living, breathing human being to be frozen in carbonite, and he lived to tell the tale.
It scared the shit out of me the first time I saw him frozen, when that slab like slams down and you see him. I was kind of like, I got really scared when that, like it just like, because I was wondering what he was gonna look like.
Watching that movie, Luke doesn't question, he's like, no, it can't be. But by the time they pick him up on the Millennium Falcon, he's like, he's already calling Darth Vader father and stuff. It wasn't ambiguous at all, like in the text. Like Luke fully accepts it. But
when he goes down that chute too, I'm always like, just move a little bit to the right. You're gonna miss that. Like, it gives me anxiety every time.
Yeah.
Same with the antenna. Like,
yeah, just
on that
just the sense of like doom, and like there's no way you're getting out of this. Like that movie really delivers it. Like, yeah, he falls this like infinite fall and then just keeps falling and falling, and now he's like hanging upside down like by the understructure of this thing that's floating in the middle of the sky, and he's holding on to these weather vanes, or like these things that are not meant to support human weight. Like he'll fall, and then the symbol, like he's like, it looks like he's on an upside down cross and stuff. Yeah,
I'd always be like, I could hang on for a long time. I know I can hang on.
And then even like when the Millennium Falcon comes up and Lando is there and it opens up and then Luke falls down, like that opening on the Millennium Falcon isn't so big. Like he could have easily missed.
I know.
That,
I'm always I'm like, you got to get square, get right under him, like.
And it had the thing of like, it was really smartly designed where it's like every single gimmick that got them out of trouble in the first Star Wars movie doesn't work. So it's like in the first Star Wars movie, the hyperdrive always works. It's like they're in trouble and then it's like, watch this, and so great where it's like, watch this, and then nothing happens. What a great moment.
So satisfying. Because you know what it does.
Yeah, exactly. Like perfect way to do a sequel. And then it was like, there's, R2-D2 always gets everybody out of trouble by sticking his little thing into like a computer terminal and doing this, and then they're out of trouble. And then this, like, he sticks his thing in and gets an electric shock, because it was not what he thought it was going to be. Just really great.
Well, I love Empire Strikes Back. Like we can't. This can't be the last Empire.
Episode. Well, this is our second Empire episode because we did the Lee Brackett script, and now we're doing this. So yeah, we'll come up with an excuse to talk about it.
Got to we should do a bounty hunter episode.
Yeah, those bounty hunters. Yes, so great. Luke Skywalker, like Empire Strikes Back, is like proof positive that George Lucas did not have like an overarching plan for this, that he was making it up as he goes on. And he did cop to that. He did admit that. Like, I think he told J.J. Abrams that, he might have told Matt Reeves, I think. He told the producers of Lost that he was just making it up as he goes too. So don't worry about it. But, when Princess Leia makes out with Luke Skywalker in Empire Strikes Back, no way they were planning their brother and sister.
It makes it even. I mean, Mark Hamill's acting makes it even funnier in retrospect.
Yes, because he is like behind.
He's like,
yeah, he practically like shoots a load in his pants.
He's like,
but like now. I've been studying, like, I'm a Lucasographer. Like, I have been studying Empire Strikes Back, very closely from, the first time I saw it. So decades of thought and research into Star Wars. And mythology has, as a motif, incest, and the story of King Arthur. Ever heard of La Morte d'Arthur? Have you ever heard, like, there's La Morte d'Arthur by Thomas Mallory, which is the, like, complete, like, full story. Like, he sort of codified all these, like, Arthur legends into, like, a continuous book, and it's called La Morte d'Arthur, like Darth Vader,
Somebody was reading that.
Yeah, it's D'Arthur, La Morte d'Arthur, but it's got Darth in there. But in the story, in La Morte d'Arthur, in the death of Arthur, King Arthur has sex with his sister Morgane Le Fay, or Morgana, or Morgan Le Fay, and the result of that incest is King Arthur's son Mordred, who is the son that they eventually kill each other. Mordred eventually kills Arthur, or Darth. He kills him, like, his son kills him, and his son is like the product of incest. And so George Lucas, with all that Joseph Campbell, with all that Joseph Campbell stuff, it does fit. And maybe it was a glitch, maybe it was a mistake, but again, like, your unconscious mind is building these things too. So maybe this kind of makes it even more of like a modern day mythology if it has that element. But so it has the incest element, and then it also has the father and son at war with each other, and the son killing. And it's interesting to think, because, like, Luke is played as like this ultimate good guy. Like, he is the face, and he has to confront his father and kill his father. But there's another way you could have played it. You could have played it from Darth Vader's point of view, and where Luke is, or Loki, where Luke is more of where Luke is more of a Mordred character, where Luke is kind of like l'enfant terrible, where Luke is kind of like the sort of like evil youth, that fights his like kingly father. And so again, there's lots of grist for the mill. It's always been sort of like an idea in my mind of like a Star Wars story that I could do eventually, if I ever get my hands on the Star Wars comics or something, would be a story where during all the in between the different Star Wars movies, that where the comics usually take place. The comics usually center around what's going on between Star Wars and Empire, what's going on between Empire and Return of the Jedi, what's going on between Return of the Jedi and the sequel trilogy. But my idea is a storyline where at a certain point where Luke and Leia didn't know they were brother and sister, have sex, it gets a little crazy one night, they have sex, and that there's a child and maybe a child that neither one of them knows about or something, but that this child, becomes like the big reveal in like a later story of like the middle-aged Luke Skywalker, where all of a sudden Luke has his own Mordred, his own, kind of like, evil son that he has to fight. That's the result of this incestuous coupling, at a time when,
Dude, like, this, Jordan, I'm like, there is smoke here, Tom. Right. You are fucking, like, this is amazing.
You know what else is funny about the whole Star Wars thing is, like, it's such like George Lucas's, kind of like fan fiction or whatever, because it's like, my name's Lucas, and I have this story about this like nerd who like becomes like the hero of the universe. Oh, and his name's Luke. My name's Lucas. His name's Luke.
When they're filming Back to the Future, he's on set. And it's like The Office. He does like the direct-to-camera thing. He's like, Luke is basically a stand-in for me. This match cuts to him reacting to Carrie Fisher. She gets some and he goes, well, yeah, I just soiled my fucking X-Wing jumpsuit or whatever.
Yeah. So I mean,
like, there's no dry cleaners on Hoth.
So yeah, we're just skirting, the surface of Empire Strikes Back. We're almost to an hour, but we could,
What's the name of the title of the
La Morte d'Arthur.
That sounds like on the Golden Girls, if Dorothy opened a restaurant.
La Morte Dorothy. But like, if he really did read Joseph Campbell and was like, okay, I'm gonna follow all this stuff and make Star Wars. It's like the hero's journey and all that stuff. Like, if he didn't have a scene where his hero, has some sort of incestuous moment, like then he, because it's like, the story the story of Arthur, the story of Oedipus, like all of these, it's kind of an important element of, like maybe half the heroes,
No, like, my mind has been blown, dude.
I'm Tom Scioli, author of Jack Kirby, The Epic Life of the King of Comics. I Am Stan, a graphic biography of the legendary Stan Lee, and Jack Kirby's Star Warriors, The Adventures of Adam Star and the Solar Legion. And it is the month of September. All three of those books are coming out in September, so they're either, at your local comic store or on the way there.
Congratulations, Tom.
Thanks, Matt.
Super exciting. I'm Matt Zeoli.
And you can follow me on Twitter at Tom Scioli, on Instagram at Tom_Scioli, and support my Patreon. Go to patreon.com and search Tom Scioli.
Follow the show on Instagram at total_recall_show.
Yeah, and may the force be with you. There is another, like if something happens to one of us, there is another.